Hi, I'm Chao from the Morpheus Clinic for Hypnosis in Toronto, Canada. As you can see, today I'm in the what counts as the great outdoors. I'm actually right outside my office here on Elm Street. It's a beautiful August day here in Toronto, and today I'm going to talk about things your parents should have told you about truth, but didn't, and it's part of our A Guide for Adults series, where I am filling in the gaps that your parents left when they parented you. The first point I want to make is that you are the world's foremost, in fact, perhaps the world's only expert in you. You have been alive as many years as you've been alive. You have seen through your eyes, heard with your ears, and thought with your brain this entire time. You know all of the thoughts that you have, not just the thoughts you express. You are the world's only expert in you. What it means is that the opinions of others, when it comes to you or what you should do with your life or what you should consume or how you should spend your time or who you want to spend it with, the opinions of others should be considered after your own. Part of being an adult means making your own decisions, and that is a most wonderful thing. It's a good thing that you are the world's only expert in you, because even if you make mistakes with whatever decisions you make, at least they're your mistakes. At least you get to learn from them. At least you get to grow from them. The second point I want to make is that sometimes authority figures are wrong. Just like with all people, they are right more often than they're not, but they are not infallible. And I think that sometimes your parents will take a perspective that because they're your dad or your mom, that they are right and you are wrong as a matter of universal or objective truth. And I'll be one to say that that is not the case. They're human just like everybody else. They can be wrong just like everybody else. I will be a person to say that about authority figures. And if you are an authority figure who's watching this, please consider that I am just telling the truth, that authority figures like you can sometimes be wrong. It means that each person has to see with their own eyes, listen with their own ears, and make their own decisions with their own mind from their own perspective, under the idea that everybody is the world's only authority in them. The third point I want to make is that since we've been making a hierarchy of who is the most right about you and who is plausibly the least right about you, your best friends are more right about you than strangers. So when it comes to valuing the opinions of the person who yelled at you on the street, or maybe a boss who barely talks to you, or perhaps it's going to be a neighbor who expresses some kind of complaint, well, these opinions about you aren't very well informed by you at all. But your best friends have the best informed opinions about you, which is why your friends and your best friends' opinions about you matter more than anyone else's. So please consider that not all opinions about you should be equally weighed. The fourth point I want to make is that it's okay not to know, and it is okay to admit that you don't know. Now, some people have grown up around authority figures who would purport that it's somehow shameful to admit that you don't know something, and I'll just be the voice of reason to say that it's okay to admit that you don't know. In fact, it's intellectually honest to admit that you don't know when you don't know. There's no shame in it whatsoever. It's better to admit that you don't know than to pretend that you do know out of some misguided sense of egotism or faking it until you make it. That's very often how people get themselves into trouble or paint themselves into a corner or bite off more than they can chew. It's a very useful skill to be able to separate what you know from what you don't, and how confident you can be in what you do know based on the information that you have. The fifth point I want to make, which is along the same lines, is the idea that there's no shame in letting someone else change your mind. Again, people who grew up in households where one person's right and that means everybody else is wrong, and then it's always a debate or a discussion or a fight to figure out who is on top and who's on bottom. This kind of environment is not conducive to open intellectual inquiry or debate as you might expect in university or in the workplace or in the public sphere. There's a very good book by a writer who I used to read a lot of named Edward de Bono. he writes about thinking and how to think in ways that are more useful, more helpful, more accurate, more true than ways that are not. And I'm just going to give you the title of the book. It's called I Am Right, You Are Wrong. And the cover of the book is in black and white, divided into two. And that really just says it all. That kind of I am right and you are wrong thinking creates discord and conflict, which is of course not conducive to being in the workforce or being in society living among others. So there's absolutely no shame for you or for anyone in being proven wrong. The last point I want to make is the idea that feelings can be a very poor guide to reality. And I'm thinking of all my clients who have fears or anxieties. I'll give you an example. Somebody with a fear of public speaking often feels like they're 12 years old. They often feel like they'll be judged or criticized, laughed at, or even ostracized if they get in front of a group of their adult peers. And that feeling comes from way back when they were actually in grade school, way back when they were judged, when their audiences were children who might actually laugh or ostracize or judge so easily. And to carry it into their adult lives means they're not seeing the truth or reality as it is today. The truth today is that they're speaking to adults, they're being asked to speak because they have information that other people don't have, and they have gained authority in their field. That's why they're asked to speak as an adult. And the feelings of being too small or not knowing enough or not being good enough are completely outdated and are wrong. So even though I work in essentially the mental health field, I will be one person to say that feelings can be wrong. And sometimes it is a mistake to indulge too much in feelings that mislead or deceive you. Now, this is different from validating feelings. The feelings that someone else feels, they feel. I mean, they're just there. It's kind of like validating the fact that today it's a warm, beautiful, wonderful day, and maybe in a few months it'll be a cold, stormy, or a snowy day. I mean, that is just what is. I believe it's a mistake to indulge too much in worries and fears and doubts. So I will be someone to say that sometimes reality, when you perceive it, the way that perhaps you did when you were younger, when you would put your hands on the grass and feel the breeze and watch the squirrels run up the trees, when you perceive reality, you'll see that reality is on your side. And that the truth is, the world is a safer place than your fears say. You are more capable than your fears say, and people on the whole are better than the worst examples of people you can think of. And those 3 points cover pretty much any anxiety that people might have. So when you indulge too much in these fears, they are a poor guide to reality. This has been another installment in the Things Your Parents Should Have Told You But Didn't, a Guide for Adults series. Once again, it's Luke Chao from the Morpheus Clinic for Hypnosis in Toronto, Canada, where we make hypnosis make sense.